The front end interface of this app contains an input field of the type file. So let's start writing our code which actually enables the transfer of the file from the front end page to the backend Node.js app. We are using jQuery in this example. So let's start writing the code. I'm going to start by creating a script tag. And let's create a variable called host, which we're going to set to the Hogan syntax, and we're getting the variable called host. Now the variable host is something which we had created in the app.js, and if you go into the routes.js, what you need to do is simply pass on a variable called host and set it to app.get and set the key to host. So in the app.js, we are using app.set to set a variable called host, which we're setting to config.host, and this is something which the config loader, the config.js, obtains from either the development.json or the production.json, depending on the environment within which the app is running. And that host name is then passed on to the index.html. Next, what we're going to do is we'll create a simple event listener. So we are looking for the click event, and we are specifically monitoring for the click event on a button called do upload. Okay, so the ID of the button is called do upload. And within the callback function of this event listener, we will simply invoke a function called upload now. Now let's create this function. So declare a function called upload now, and this is where we will actually perform the upload. So the very first thing that I want to do is I want to get the URL to which I want to do a post request with the file, and that we will set to a variable called upload URL. Set it to host plus /upload. So we have not created this route yet in the Node.js app. We'll do that in the next video. But for now, you just need to set this variable. The other thing which I need at this point of time is access to the actual file. Now the file would be loaded in by using this input field of the type file. So first of all, let's get access to this input field. This is called upload pic. It has a class name of upload pic. And the very first thing that I need to do is I need to do a simple check to see whether we do have a file picked in this input field or not. So let's just look for the value of this input field. And if this is not equal to a blank, this basically means that we do have a particular file picked in the input field. Next, I'm going to use the HTML5 form data API, which will let us programmatically create a form containing the file, which we're going to then send via AJAX to the Node.js app. So the first thing that we do is we create a variable called form. You can call it anything that you want. I prefer calling it simply form. And create or instantiate a new form data object. Once you have this, you will simply append key value pairs to this form data, and this will programmatically generate a form. So we don't have to create an HTML5 form tag. We can just use JavaScript to programmatically create a form with a payload and then use Ajax to transfer it back to the Node.js app. So let's do a form dot append, and the name of the form field will be called upload, and this will contain our actual file payload. Set this to upload file. Now upload file refers to the input type. As you can see here, we have created a variable called upload file, which refers to the input field of the type file. And what we want to do is we want to access the first item in this array. So when you get access to an input field of the type file, and specifically we are using the class name here, we want to access the first object of that array, and we want to access the files property, and specifically we are looking for the first file. So whenever you use an input type file, you will get back an array called files. It's a property called files, which itself is an array, because the input type of file can also be configured to upload multiple files at the same time. We are just setting it to the defaults, which allows us to upload or pick one file at a time, and hence we are looking for the first file in that array. So by doing this, what we have done is we have created an input field. We have created essentially a key called upload. You may think of it as a variable, and it contains reference to the file that the user has picked using this input field. So once we have done this, the next thing that we're going to do, and let me just put it in comments here, perform the Ajax post request and send the file. Now you can use the standard jQuery $.ajax syntax, and that will work perfectly fine if you want to send the file back to the server. However, what we have done in this particular example is we have provided to you a JavaScript file called PhotoGRID_utils.js, and what this contains is a custom written function called Ajax, which is essentially a wrapper for the fundamental basic XML HTTP request method which JavaScript provides. Alright, so why are we using this over, let's say, the jQuery version of Ajax? Is simply because the jQuery version of Ajax does not provide us with a built-in progress handler. The progress handler actively reports on the progress of the file upload, and that is what we are going to use to display a progress bar on the page. So let's see how we can use this particular method, and you can just simply copy and paste this into your own projects, and you can use this in other projects as well. So what we're going to do here is we are going to use this function much like the jQuery function. So we'll say Ajax, and this is a function, and within the arguments of the function we're going to pass in a JSON object where the method will be set to post. The URL, let's go to the next line, the URL, another property built into this method, will be set to the upload URL. So remember, we had created a variable called upload URL, which is set to host plus /upload, and this is a route that we're going to create in the routes.js later on. So we require a URL, we require the method post. The next thing that I need is a success method, a success function. This function is simply a callback. So whenever the Ajax upload completes, I want to do a particular thing, and that's something which I can put here. And we will also get a progress handler. And what we want to do in the progress handler is we will pass in the event object, and we will write a very simple piece of code here which says if e.length computable That is, if the server is actively providing you with the progress data, the progress report for the upload, that is, if the server is giving you data which you can use to create a progress bar, then we want to calculate the percentage of upload, which we can do by saying math.round. We want to round off the values. We don't want floating point values. And we will compute e.loaded, that is the amount of data that has been transferred, multiplied by 100 and divided by e.total, that is the total size of the payload. So what this simply does is, at various intervals, it gets the amount of data that has been transferred, and it does this very simple computation over the total amount of that data that needs to be transferred, and it computes a percentage. And what we're going to do with this percentage is we're going to simply plug this into our progress bar. So remember, I had shown you the progress bar in one of the previous videos, and the progress bar is nothing but a div which will have its width CSS property animated. So we'll just say dot progress. This accesses that particular progress bar div dot CSS, and we need to manipulate the width, and we will set this to the percentage value plus add a percentage, because that's how the CSS property would be written. And this is all that you need to animate the progress bar on this page. So after declaring the progress handler, there's just one more thing that I need to declare in the Ajax function, and that happens to be the most important property, and that is the payload. So what exactly are we uploading? We are uploading the payload, and the payload in this case is simply a reference to the variable called form, because we have already created the form variable. We have instantiated a new form data object, and we have created a new key called upload, which contains reference to the file that the user has picked. So now we will simply attach that into the Ajax function, and this will do the needful, and this will upload. I think I need to do two more things, which is that whenever we invoke the function, I need to have the progress bar fade in. So I just need this to fade in over 100 milliseconds. And when the success thing happens, when the upload completes, that is, I need to fade this out. And between these two instances, it will get animated using the progress handler. One other thing that we'll do is we will just access the upload file, which is the input field, and we will set its value to blank. Okay, so whenever the upload is done, the input field will be emptied out and our progress bar would be hidden. So that essentially is how we will write our front end code, which enables the transfer of the file, which does the file upload from the page, the index.html page, back to the Node.js app. One more thing that I'm going to do right away is I'm going to go into the routes.js. Let's go here and let's declare a route which will handle this upload. So we'll simply say router.post in this case, because remember that back in the index.html we are using the form method post. Okay, we are not using the get method. Whenever you're doing file uploads, you will always have to use the post method, never use the get. So do a router.post, and the route specifically that we need to post the file to is /upload. So back in the index.html, we were accessing the host property and we were appending the /upload part of the URL, and that essentially means that we want to access this route. Pass in a function which will have the usual request, response, and next, and this is where we will manage the file upload. So let's do that in the next video.